Welcome to the Vegan Health and Fitness Podcast. I'm B, and today my guest is IFBB Pro bodybuilder Torre Washington, the Vegan Dread. He's got so much wisdom to share with us, so stick around to hear much truth. I'm so excited to be here with Torre Washington, one of my favorite people in the whole world, and obviously one of the most beautiful physiques that I know of. Otherwise, I wouldn't have put him on the cover of my magazine twice. So welcome to the show, Torre.
Thank you for having me, Brenda. I'm so appreciative and grateful for all that you have done and what you have given, all the opportunity that you have given me to cover a magazine, which is something of a dream that I've always wanted to do, is be on the cover of a magazine. Because the one where it was me and what's the young lady's name?
Talia?
No, not Talia. Me and Talia and John did too.
Yolanda? You were
Yolanda. Maybe I have two photos that kind of relate. One we were wearing the gold, remember?
Yeah.
And then the other one we were wearing the red.
Okay. Yeah, those were fun photo shoots.
They were. It was a great time. I appreciate that.
Well, it was.
But yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. It was fun when I lived in Miami, close to where you are, so we could hang out together all the time. And that was a few years ago now. So today's the day we're going to catch up, and I'm really looking forward to our chats. But of course, I've continued to follow you. Torre has a YouTube channel everyone should follow called Torre Washington. And he's been on a lot of other people's podcasts. And so, everything Torre does is amazing. Is there anything else that you are doing media-wise that people should be following?
I mean, I am pretty much across the board with, Instagram, Twitter, and the other platform, TikTok, all of them. I'm on them all, doing my same name, Torre Washington. And, it's just my way of showcasing my lifestyle, my journey, and letting you know that I'm able to do it on a fully plant-based vegan lifestyle. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, we always appreciate what a great representative you are. And for anybody who doesn't know Torre's story, he's been vegetarian his whole life. His mom was Seventh-day Adventist. But what I really want to get into is when you were a young man, you guys went back to Jamaica. First, you were in Alabama, which I think is amazing that you went vegetarian from childhood in Alabama, because I grew up in Mississippi and wanted to be vegetarian at a young age and was highly discouraged. So it's really cool that you found this niche in the Seventh-day Adventist church where there was some people who were vegetarian and that you did that. But I want to talk about your ethical philosophy that comes from the Rastafarian roots, the Ital, the living close to nature, philosophy of living. Can you tell us a little bit about what Ital is and what it means to you and how it affects your life? And I just want to also mention that you're known as the Vegan Dread. You got these beautiful long dreadlocks that go down past your butt. And dreadlocks are a symbol of wisdom in the Rastafarian community. So we're looking to you today to educate us with your wisdom on Rastafarianism and Ital.
So yes. So, the irony of it all is that when the Rastafarian lifestyle came into existence within my life was after the fact of, being Seventh-day Adventist or vegetarian. When we moved to Jamaica, there I was kind of introduced just to the culture of Rastafarian because of seeing Rastas around while I was there. But of course, in that time, Rastas were kind of looked down upon based on the way they look and how they saw life, because they were very much rebellious in that sense. But it had a lot of roots within Christianity. And that's what, Seventh-day Adventist was based off of Christianity. Now, the only difference is that, the Seventh-day Adventists took upon the message, it's called the health message, in which they wanted to live as close to the way God intended biblically for man to live out of the Garden of Eden. And so when that occurred, and as I learned more about Rasta upon coming back to the States and living in South Florida, I met a lot of friends, and we decided to, really do a lot of research into the lifestyle, because one of my friend's father, he was Rasta. And, at that time, hip hop, rap music started to grow lots, and people started to really study their culture, their history. And this intrigued me as well, because I wanted to know more. And so as I read more and learned more, I recognized the fact that, the Nazarene vow is another Christian aspect that identified with the Rasta, where you grew your locks. And then there was Samson, where Samson only had 7 locks. And historically, we're looked at as, if you have 7 locks, you can't have 7 locks of stringy hair. Right. So that would mean like a little patch. So 7 locks could only signify that he had big, thick dreadlocks, as most people call them, but we just call them locks. So learning more about that and recognizing that Rastafari came from a culture dating back to Emperor Haile Selassie and Marcus Garvey, who really talked about a king uprising out of Ethiopia. And what happened is a lot of Jamaicans identified with this king because he actually wanted to stand up against the Mussolinis of the world and the other countries that were looking to colonialize a lot of different countries around the globe. And so him standing up, being the name Rastafari Makanen, was assigned to the Jamaicans with locks, who decided to call themselves, name themselves after him, calling themselves Rastafari. Ras meaning head, and Tafari was the name, so king. And this wisdom or this culture grew out of that, and to the point where most Rastas look to, okay, how can we most come closer to identifying with the earth and the universe and being out of the world of, called Babylon. Babylon would be a place where people would do a lot of sadistic and evil things, and they wanted to be away from that. And so in order to be away from that, they moved to the woods and lived amongst the animals, lived amongst nature. And in that, they wanted to really just consume what God provides, or Jah provides from the earth. And that's where Ital came from. So we want to live as natural. Ital are the same term, but Rasta likes to use I in front of a lot of things, because I represents living I and I, one, and I am one with God. And so we wanted to connect that with nature, Ital, instead of natural, Ital. So Ital is really just eating nothing but fruits, veggies, not even really using salt, not really using any dishes, using what nature provided in order to eat. And
I love that.
It grew a lot. It grew a lot. But of course, it also became, when someone sees something that looks different, it becomes more commercialized. And it became commercialized to where locks actually started to just become fashion. But a lot of the idea of locks came from the tribes in Africa that were fighting against, colonialization as well. And one of them being the Mau Mau tribe, where I think they actually grew their locks by using mud to stiffen them and look different. So Rastas took this upon as a rebellious look to go against Babylon. So it was always the resistance against colonialization and conforming to what society considered professional. Because, as we know, currently, people are usually pushed into this one all rule where we all need to be the same. And Rasta was always against, making one man be able to identify with how everybody should be. So yeah.
I love that.
Thank you.
I think the philosophy is so beautiful. I have a similar philosophy of trying to eat as close to nature as possible and live life as close to nature as possible, which of course is difficult in our modern society, right, where everything is provided for us in prepackaged containers and super processed, and this is the norm. And I love that you're a bodybuilder with such an amazing physique who has won so many titles. And when asked about your diet, and people are always like, what kind of supplements do you take, and this and that, you're always like, I like to get my nutrients from my food. And it's like, why is that a big, amazing concept? Like getting your nutrients from food instead of from weird stuff that's created in a laboratory that's put into pills and potions and powders. But you've been such a leader in that regard. Do you feel like what you're doing is different from what most people do as bodybuilders?
But I gotta say that, and thank you for that. I have always been an individual from an early age. I questioned a lot of things. And so I even questioned the religious practice that, I was raised up in, because, things are typically packaged into an ideal to group people into this box where they can't step out of it. And so with that, I was always looking to be different in the sense that I wanted to research and look more into things versus than what the surface had been given to me. So when it came to starting bodybuilding, I really was intrigued with just getting the look as well as being preventative in injury. And so I was always into the natural way of doing things. When I started training, people talked a lot about creatine and these types of things. And I was not really into that because I wanted to be able to just build. I didn't think you necessarily need to have creatine or do all of that stuff when I first started out. And I didn't take the amino acids and those sorts. I just like to eat. And that was another thing. I enjoyed eating. I'd rather eat than having to, suck down something. And it's interesting because as I started to do it that way, I still was able to win shows, do well, and be very competitive. And now I'm starting, to recognize that everything has its place, and allowing people to choose whichever path they want to based on their choices. And so, for now, currently, I do use supplements, but not to the extent that most people tend to, where they have so many different things. I may do something simple like as much as protein powder, and now I'm using creatine. When I realized that creatine is also something naturally produced, but it also is very helpful in recovery, strength, and keeping the body full because it allows the cells of the muscles to absorb water so that therefore they look good and actually it's better for recovery and strength. So, simple things like that. I'm not into let's do this and do that and do the other, because like you mentioned earlier, I like to stay as natural as I believe is possible and for as long as possible.
Right. Well, you've been competing for a long time, and maybe you're just getting bored with it because you win all the time, and maybe you're just like your body's just like achieved the pinnacle a long time ago, like it's so perfect, and you're just like, yeah, let's try adding some creatine and see what happens. So
right, that's true.
You experimenting around and doing whatever you want to do, Tori. You can do no wrong for me. Tell us about how many times you have competed and how many times you've won and what kind of titles you've won.
So I started competing in 2009, and that was April. And I think that year I did probably 3-4 shows. And then I started 2010. I actually didn't compete because I injured my knee when I made some turn doing something not even fitness related, and so I was out for that year. But then 2011, I competed for about 5 times, 2012, about 5 times, 2013, I think when I kind of I don't know if I ran into you then, because I went, yes, 2013 was the year where I went to Texas. That year, I did 7 shows, and I won every show in 2013, because that was the time when you said Tori's on a war path, winning all these shows and getting these different pro cards.
Yep.
And 2014, I fought. So I would say over the years, I have at least competed more than 30 times. And
Wow.
out of those, I placed or won, and the place in the top 5 or top 4, top 3, at least 20, if not 25 or 22 of those times.
I love that
You know,
you've lost count.
I mean, it's so many because I still enjoy the process that you go through to compete because I love to see what I've accomplished and can accomplish being plant-based, just getting my nutrients from plants and fruits because, a lot of, especially nowadays, you have so many people going, oh, I used to be vegan, I did it for 6 years and yada, 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 but it's not that great. And here I am, 25 years, still building muscle, still doing what I'm doing and actually looking better. So it's just it's evidence to show the world like, hello, I am still doing this. So don't listen to all of the 6 years, even the 8 years, who then say, oh, it didn't work for me. Because it's funny how they get so much attention. But myself and John, Badass Vegan, and others who have been doing this, plus you, we've been doing this for 20 plus years.
Right.
We're still here. But it's like it's as if we're not important enough to share, like, oh, well, these guys have been doing it for this amount of time and they're still fine. So why aren't we given that same platform? But when it's dramatized and given so much attention for the ones that leave it, it's it's very interesting to see that.
It is interesting. And, like you said, we've been doing it for so long. And it's like we've gone through all these different phases. I went vegan in 1991, which was before most people knew what the word vegan even meant. So what I was going through at that time was people always saying, what does vegan mean? What is that? And so I would just say I'm from the solar system Vega, because I didn't always want to get into it with everybody, but people didn't know. And then I remember the first time I saw the word vegan in a grocery store, and I thought, oh, people are going to know what this is now. And it's, we've been able to see things evolve. And at first I had people telling me, if you don't eat meat protein, you're going to die, which I'm sure you had people telling you you'll never build muscle if you don't eat the meat. And there you are doing it while they're telling you you can't. And then, have people telling you if you don't eat dairy, you're going to have problems with calcium. And of course, they're wrong about all of this stuff. And I was always having to educate doctors and nurses every time I went in for a checkup and told them I was vegan about where the true sources of these nutrients are. And it's been interesting that, like, then, fad diets come and go. Like there was Atkins, and then there was paleo, and then there's keto, and it's all the same thing, just packaged a little bit differently. And it just confuses people. And they have these trumped up scientific studies that all of a sudden say, oh, cholesterol doesn't cause heart disease. And it's like, really? If I showed you a study tomorrow that said smoking cigarettes doesn't cause lung cancer, would you believe it? I mean, this is science that's been around for a long time, that's been well understood. But we keep going through these different phases in society and do you find that you get different criticisms now, or different, and it's just like, well, here's the new thing we got to respond to.
Oh my gosh, Brenda.
You've always gotten the steroid question.
And what's interesting is I don't really get you can't build muscle without
Not
meat.
now, because I mean,
Right. But I think because they look at me and then they find out I'm vegan and then they can't say that. So all
right.
they say is, where do you get your protein? That's all they can say, because clearly I just beat you on stage. So it's not, okay, he can't. He is doing it. How? That's where it comes up. And, there's really never, I think I represent so much of the myth that they hear that there's really nowhere to say. Other thing they'll say is, well, he must be using steroids. There's no way. He has to be using drugs, or that just makes something up. Well, he would be bigger if he ate meat, So I get those things. He would be. this if he ate meat versus, oh, he can't, so it's always something. And you're right. Like I was always seeing that, okay, first we can't get protein, then you're gonna have problem with calcium, bad teeth, oh, B12. There's always something new. And now there's this, you're not gonna get bioavailability of all the nutrients you need because plants don't contain them all. So, now you're gonna have brain fog, you're gonna have this happen, you're gonna deteriorate faster and all these different things. So they just keep coming up with something new. And it's really just to cause that confusion, to make people second guess their health or however they want to be about animals and the humanity and what have you. And so when people have these ethics and they want to stick to them, someone's going to give them, hey, that's not going to work.
Right.
You're going to end up coming right back. You'll be back over here saying that you were bloated and you had bad digestion, your skin broke out, you're going to lose hair. It's just so much.
Yeah. Well, I've found that most people who go vegan for health reasons or even to turn around a disease, like I've known people who had cancer, turned it around and then fell off the wagon. And the reason why they fell off the wagon is because they weren't doing it for like a deep, heartfelt, ethical reason, which is what I love about you. I've had people in the magazine who, after they were in the magazine, were one of these people who fell off the wagon, and it's like, oh, that was embarrassing. And try to hope that they don't
Really?
before the magazine hits the shelves, And so I never have to worry about somebody like you who has this ITAL ethic, and you also have like an inner calm, an inner peace. Do you meditate? Because I mean, you just seem like you are like spiritually together.
I guess I give that to my upbringing and my, when I was in college, I really took it upon myself to do things like that. I was very much into the spiritual aspect of life itself and recognizing that, accepting one another. And so, because you're not the first person to say that, I get it a lot. And I am that type of individual who I feel like I could meditate more. But I do tend to really go more within to achieve my peace versus without, because I know a lot of us tend to, not us in general, but a lot of people tend to look outside to find acceptance and validation. And I think that's another thing. It was hard for me to actually start Facebook and Instagram and all those things because I didn't like the terminology followers. Because, I said, why would you want to follow someone? Wouldn't you want to be your own leader? Wouldn't you want to, do things for yourself? And so it took me a long time to actually, maybe that's another reason why I haven't achieved that 2 million status on Instagram, because I was never that individual to just need that in order to be accepted. And, I was okay with being different. And I was okay with, being that I am calm. And it takes a lot to make me not, and even then it takes a lot for me to even act upon it. You know what I mean? So I could meditate more, but like I said, it's just come from a background of being very much in tune with the spiritual side of life in its other self.
Well, you also apparently have a lot of self-discipline. You eat a certain way, you train a certain way, you're extremely consistent. You have a lifestyle that's built around health and your physique being a certain way that is, represents something really strong and beautiful and healthy. And, you take all of that seriously. And you want to speak a little bit about like where you think that inner commitment and determination and discipline comes from? Is it part of your spiritual way of thinking of life? Does it have anything to do with the Rastafarianism, or is it something else?
I think it comes from just, I've started reading a lot about culture and history and things. Sorry about that. Hold on. Uh, Did that black you out?
Just for a second.
Okay.
It's okay.
No. So it's I just started reading, and I've always wanted to be that person that was consistent. I wanted to, like, when I jump into something, I go deep into it to really comprehend what is going on. And that could be even when I was doing network marketing, direct sales. I got so into it that people got annoyed with me because I was that much into it. I was wanted to be the best at it and really succeed and really do what I needed to do in order to make it successful. So when it comes to even my fitness, I mean, Brenda, I decided to compete based on an idea that I did not want to end my life saying I should have.
Mhm.
I was like, I didn't want to say, man, I should have competed, or I wish I did. I said, let me at least give it a shot. And I had also had this idea to help and serve mankind as much as possible. But I knew, being one person, how could I do that? I needed to be a celebrity or someone that has a platform to where they can help many people, because I would go around helping people if I saw you in trouble, on the side of the road or different things like that, and not looking for anything in return, and I felt like because I think I wanted people to do that to each other. If I'm helping you, help someone else. We should always want to help our fellow human being. And, so when this lifestyle took its turn for me to be able to do that, it was surreal, because I didn't think that's how it was gonna end up. Because, I went the regular route, got a degree, went to school, got a job. Next thing you know, I compete. Then Robert Cheek notices me, and next thing you know, everybody started talking about me. Who's this guy? He's competing. He looks like this, and here we are. Here we are to this day. I'm working with Chris Hemsworth. I've worked with other celebrities like Lenny Kravitz, Mary J. Blige, and
You worked with Lenny?
yeah. So it's been amazing to see how this journey turned around, and I've been able to meet so many inspiring individuals and continuously still doing that. Meaning now people who are within the elite 1% of the world, training them, things like that. So it's just it speaks to being consistent, sticking to your morals, and just keep moving forward, keep going.
Awesome. Well, if you see Lenny again, tell him I love him. I met him one time, and that was all I could say, was like, I love you. And, just kind of walked away like, I can't believe I just met him. But anyway, that was a long time ago. And I know you and I have talked about how much we both love him so much. And so I'm glad that you've worked with him. I'm all flustered now. We're going to move on to the next topic. I wanted to talk about how there's this side of you that I think that most people don't know. You just mentioned that you're highly educated. People don't know. I know people know that you love Japanese sweet potatoes, but that you speak Japanese. That people know that you have lived in Japan. You speak Japanese. You're this highly educated guy. You're more than just brawn. You're also brain. You get underestimated.
Yeah, that's it's funny you mention that, because today I was training a client, and we got into that conversation because we started talking about languages, and I talked about that, and she asked me to say something in Japanese, and so when I did, she was like, "Wow, that sounds so eerily Japanese," and it all, again, that just goes back to everything that I'm doing now. When I wanted to learn Japanese, I actually went to the library and picked up a Japanese book to kind of teach myself. But of course, that was more difficult because you don't know how to phonetically sound the letters. And so, but then I was given the gift of an opportunity with a Japanese company when I got out of college to work with them. And then they sent me to Japan, they sent me to the Philippines, and I studied Japanese more with the president's wife because she needed to further enhance her English. And so with that, she taught me Japanese at the same time. And so that was a very, grateful experience. Of course, I used to be a lot more fluent, because how much am I using Japanese now? I haven't been to Japan in a long time, but I would love to. I'm looking forward to one day going back.
Mhm.
And I was supposed to go back way back, I think 2019 or 18, and it was a vegan event that they were putting on, but it never panned out. But I'm still in contact with the person that was bringing it up, because I know vegan was growing over there. It probably still is,
Mhm.
So it was an opportunity for me to go, because I know a lot of the Asian countries, you can go there and actually it's weird, you can stand out so much, and they really look up to you in the Asian country, Japan being one of them. So yeah, Japanese, speak French, learning Spanish right now, which I should have learned a long time ago, meaning that I'm living in South Florida, Miami area.
Wow.
And yeah, so it's just some of my things that I enjoy. And engineering is one of my, I guess it's a passion, but I just didn't like the way I was doing it, because it was such a job being behind a desk. But I do love building things, taking things apart and putting them back together. So now I do that with bodies. I engineer physical bodies. I put your body back the way you want it to look.
I love that. That's a great way of looking at it. I remember when you used to say that when you spoke to people on the phone in Japan, that they thought you were Japanese, and then you'd get there to Japan and they'd be so surprised to see you. That's great. So I think
And,
that
yeah, and it's even interesting because I used to leave my voicemails in Japanese, and people would call and think they had the wrong person. おはようございます。私がトリですね。お願いします. And they would just sit there and like, what? This is the wrong voicemail. I'm looking for Torre Washington.
that's a good way to make sure that only people who really know you are calling you and leaving you messages.
Yeah, I think John was the only one that knew that at the time. He was like, I knew I had your voicemail because I knew it was you.
That's awesome. And now you walk across the stage in a little bikini bottom and you have people judging your body. How interesting to go from to that. So do you ever feel weird about that? I know, like for myself, I used to model swimwear. I used to do runway shows, modeling bikinis and stuff when I was, my teens and 20s. And as I got older and I got into the fitness stuff, I was around so many people like you who are bodybuilding and covering it all for the magazine. And people were always saying, you should compete. Would you like to compete? You should do that. And I would say, I had my time of walking across the stage and almost naked and having complete strangers judging my body and deciding whether it's good enough. And
and that's the crazy part about it. You have to be very strong-minded and strong-willed to recognize that people are going to do that, and when they do that, they're doing that based on some, like you said, it's subjective, because it's what they feel is, sorry, what they feel is,
I'm getting a tour of your apartment. I love this.
yeah, what they feel is what looks good, because they follow a set of regulations, but do they actually follow it? Because they then tend to, subject it to what they consider beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess you're just lucky that everybody considers you beautiful, Tori. So we talked about a little bit about that you love a Japanese sweet potato. Another thing that you love is tofu. So I just wanted to talk about that, because there's all these misconceptions about soy, and that soy is gonna make you effeminate. And I love using you as an example. I'm like, to show a picture of you on the cover. Does this guy look effeminate to you? He's definitely eating tofu every day.
And it's so crazy, Brenda, that a lot of that fallacy or erroneous disbelief is still around, because I had someone say that the other day, but it's really there for people who, when they first look into it as a way of life, nutrition wise, and so they start to look up these they Google everything and find all this information that says estrogen in soy causes men to develop women, type of
Breath.
breasts and what have you, right? And when I actually heard it the other day, I was like, what? I said, man, that's not. I said, dude, I have been doing this for years, and I started out eating when I was, like you said, you started in 1991. That was pretty much what was the main thing around.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they forget that it's been an Asian thing for decades, centuries.
Yes.
So and they eat it. They ate it not maybe they didn't eat it every day, but they ate it all the time as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just uncanny to see that it's still there and people still believe that. Now mind you, we all are unique. So some people may have an aversion to certain things based on their genetic makeup, how they were raised, and things of that nature, and it may affect them in certain ways. But that doesn't mean that it's just going to do that to everybody. Same thing when it comes to steroids. Someone will have an adverse reaction that's different than the other person. So you never know what your adverse reaction to it will be. Some people, especially like women, for example, some may get the voice change and others may not. Some may get a lot of hair growth and others may not. Some may get hair loss that's expedited due to the process of added testosterone, or some may not. It all depends on how your body responds. So it's almost taking a gamble when it comes to the drugs. But when it goes to certain food, some people are allergic to peanuts. That's not to say that, hey, peanuts are bad for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
That's what some people have as a reaction. So.
Speaking of steroids and the fact that you are all natural, I wanted to say supernatural. You are supernatural. That there's a lot of people who get into bodybuilding, and even if they don't compete, I know there's a gentleman who was in the magazine. He won't mind me mentioning this because he spoke about it openly in the magazine. But he was into bodybuilding. He was in the military. He was a police officer, and just really into like the whole macho body type and lifestyle, and hit about my age in his 50s, and all of a sudden started having all kinds of heart problems. And after going to all these different specialists and finally ending up with Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn, learned that he has to be very extreme in his diet now. What he eats, like me, which I guess is very extreme: no oil, no crackers, no processed foods that have oil in them, no salt, and just whole plant foods, which it's not torture. I love it. I have a couple cookies on it, but to most people this is the challenge, because we're so used to eating in restaurants where you can't avoid oil and salt, and eating processed foods and things like that. But I'm just wondering, as you are, well, you're never getting older because you just look the same no matter what, Tori. But as time goes by, I'll just put it that way, do you think about like your choices that you're making, eating healthier and not choosing to do supplements, never having done the steroids, how you're going to get to have more longevity in this profession, and you're also going to age better and have more health than someone who has maybe taken that other route?
It's like everything has timing. I say that because just Saturday, someone said the same thing you just said to me. And they said that they were so inspired by my lifestyle choices, because they're also a competitor and they have a large law office and what have you. And so they stopped me and said, man, I just want to say you're an inspiration, because what you're doing, you looked at this from a long-term mindset, because you didn't take the route of adding the drugs to your system. So therefore you're gonna, you're aging differently. You're aging with grace. And when he found out my age, he was just kind of shocked, because I'm still up there competing, and the way I'm looking, I look like I should be competing in the younger classes. And so it was an inspiration to him because he started using because to be more competitive. Whereas I didn't even think about that in a sense of just to be more competitive, so
when you're
never,
winning, you don't have to worry about that.
right. And it's interesting because I didn't, knowing what I'm up against when it comes to the fact that most of these guys are using, they're gonna have the immense muscle growth and gain that, when it comes to their size, that's not what I'm gonna be able to compete against. I'm always gonna be smaller. My goal is to just be as complete as I possibly can and continue to improve for myself. And the more I improve for myself, it's a win for me. And so that's how I look at it. Now, mind you, it is fun to win because it does help strengthen the cause of what I'm doing. Because when you can win, most people see winning as the only, what's the word? The only measure to success, winning. And so that's also what's helped me achieve my success. But that was in the natural world. In the natural world of bodybuilding, I was very successful. But when it came to the area of non-tested, it's harder to be the person to win, because if you do win against those who aren't, it's kind of a knock against using it. And it would kind of send a message that maybe I don't need to use. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you've definitely proven that you don't need that stuff. You definitely don't need meat or animal products. And you can, not only have a beautiful physique, but you can even win these competitions over and over and over again. So what's next for Torre Washington? I hear that you're working on a book. Do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so finally, after years of living, and I still have so much more to go, I've been told by Brenda and the like and others, you need a book, you need a book, you need a book. And I just was concerned with the task, that it was going to be something that was astronomical. And how is it going to be done with me having clients and doing things in order to create, financial success? How am I going to do this? And so I realized that there is a way to have it done. And so that's what I've been working on, so that therefore we can bring it to a publisher and get that book put out there to the public, so people can see and learn more about my story on their coffee table or their, the nightstand, have you, wherever it's going to be, in the stores and bestseller and all of that. So yeah, I'm working on that. And hopefully, I'm in a couple of documentaries that John's documentary, They're Trying to Kill Us. I'm also in the documentary From the Ground Up, working with clients on a day-to-day basis, still competing. I'm going to be competing in November at the IFBB Pro Natural Show, which is held in Alexandria, Virginia. So it's going to be fun. We're looking forward to that. And yeah, lots going on, and hopefully more as we continue to do more for people on this planet.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I want to thank you for inspiring everyone to keep their bodies in great shape, because I think that when people see you and what you've accomplished, and you talk about going to your show maybe in Alexandria, Virginia, if you're in that area and you've never been to a bodybuilding show, I encourage you to go and cheer Torre on, because it's actually really fun if you've never been to a show before, and it will inspire you to get your butt in the gym and to do everything you can with your own body. Even if you don't want to get up on the stage, just seeing people like Torre walking across there and probably collecting all the trophies as he always does, it's very inspiring.
Yes, thank you.
We talked a little bit about the fact that you're a trainer as well, and you get to work with celebrities, and I'm not a big celebrity like the people that you usually work with, but you said that you're going to walk me through a couple moves, and we're going to focus on form. Are you still up for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Yay.
What are their weights? How much do they weigh?
I don't know. I picked the lightest ones because I figure I don't want to look stupid if I can't do something.
let's grab one of them.
Just one?
Yeah. So we're gonna do what's called a lunge press. Now, each side of the dumbbell has long posts. Let's grab it with both hands. So grab the post on the, yes. So bring it in front of you, in front of your face.
The same position?
Yes.
Okay.
Lean forward a bit, right there. So lunge down and come up and press. Yes.
Like that?
Yep, and down again.
Bring the weight down?
Nope. Lunge down, squat down, yep. Press and come up, press. Yes, down again, up, press. So you want to make all of the motions together. So down, start pressing. Good. And what your goal is to not lean back. So as you lean back, you tend to put pressure on your lower back, which you don't want. So same thing, just slightly bend at the waist, forward, right there. Tighten your core, pull your belly button in. So you lunge down and come up, start pressing, right there. And down. Yeah, good. All right, let's relax. Good, so now.
Okay, so this is a little different for me. I like it though.
So let's do this. Face the wall again, face the painting again. Grab the dumbbell in the middle on the bar with both hands. And I want you to turn the bar vertical, not vertical, turn it, yes. So now I want you to open your stance a little bit and bring the dumbbell down in between your legs. Right. So now just squat down, right there, come up, drive through your hips and forward. Push your hips forward. Ready? Come up, push your hips forward.
Oh.
Yes. Go down, up, right there, boom. Don't lean back too far, because the further you lean back, the more pressure you put on your lower back. You don't want to do that. And the same thing with the,
want to go all the way back.
yeah, you're not, we're not doing that. And the same thing is for the squatting. You don't want to lean too far forward, because you're putting too much weight-bearing load on the lower back. That's why I want the dumbbell to hang more in between your legs, because the center of gravity will keep the center of gravity.
So you can see?
Yes. You want it almost underneath you, almost fully underneath, like your hands almost underneath you. Yes. Ready? Go.
Mine a little horsey.
Yes. Go ahead. And up. And see your stance needs to be a little closer. You don't have to be so wide. Yeah.
Okay.
Because when you're coming down, I want your knees to follow the path of your third toe.
Okay.
That's how your knees should go in the same path that your third toe is pointing. Go ahead, do it again. Careful of behind you. Good, and that's it, right there. All you do is drive up through your heels and contract the glutes at the top, not necessarily leaning back. Yes, there you go. Good. Good.
How many of these are you going to make me do, Tori?
Typically I have my clients do 15 to 20.
Okay. I don't even know what I'm on. This seems like 14.
And 15. That's good. And so let's see what that way we can also work your back. So let's face the painting again.
Okay.
Put the dumbbell in your right arm, right hand. Yeah. Have it facing me. Turn your palm facing me. Yes. Right. So now take your left leg, put the left leg forward. Right. Put your left forearm on the top of your thigh. Yes. Yes. Let the dumbbell hang.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, straighten your back out a little bit. So that means yes. So now you can do a one-arm row. So you wanna kind of allow, oh, kitty.
Straighten them.
Aww.
Who wants to help?
Hi, kitty. So yes, and now don't squeeze the dumbbell so hard. Take your thumb and put it on the other side where your 4 fingers are, and on the other side. Put your thumb on the other side. Yes. So it's just, you just kind of have like a hook grip, and
Okay.
you drive through your elbow, making sure that think about elbowing someone behind you and pinching your shoulder blades. So not twisting, you're just pinching. So if your hand
This
is
is
getting close,
complicated.
if your hand is getting close to your shoulder,
Uh-huh.
you're doing more biceps. You want to create almost a 90-degree angle in your elbow when you pull.
Okay, well, let me face you
So
again.
yeah, so when I say 90,
So this way, back.
yes, yeah, yes. And so this is just to kind of, if you don't have a bench or a chair or anything, you can do one arm dumbbell
The other
row.
one. I'm going to be all lopsided.
Yeah, using your body. Yes, there you go. Good. Remember, focus on using the lat and using the scapula versus using your bicep. So don't think about bringing your hand close to your shoulder. Just think about pushing back through your elbow. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
Yay.
And when you have long limbs,
Yes.
a good exercise for your biceps is a hammer curl. Hammer curl is where,
Okay.
yes, yes.
This
So
one?
turn face the other direction.
This
Right?
way. This way.
No, yes. So when you come down with the dumbbell, this time rest it right on top of your leg, right? And then curl from there.
Oh.
Yeah, there's no momentum. You take out the slack, and you take out the momentum. So
You
come
said
down to the top of your leg.
30 pounds.
So you might need to start lighter. So we shouldn't be swinging.
Uh-huh. I'm gonna have to go lighter to
Yeah.
accomplish that, because right now this is hard. But that goes to show, different types of workouts, your body adapts to what you do.
Yeah, you don't want to get in a fight with a raccoon and lose this time.
Yes, people are gonna wonder what you're talking about. I was attacked by a raccoon in Texas. It's a true story. And
That story was forever funny to me.
they made me tell it over and over again in the ER to every person that came in on staff. Because it was like everybody was coming in for normal things like heart attacks and stuff. But they were like, tell everybody about the raccoon. I had a bite on my thigh, a bite on my hand. They made me get a tetanus shot. It was horrible. But anyway, I forgive and love the raccoon. It wasn't her fault, his or her fault.
Exactly.
So anyway, well, thank
Well,
you
yeah.
for that.
No, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.
I'm teaching yoga, so that's been my main thing. And you having me stand upside down on my hands, it would have gone a lot better. Well, thank you so much for your time today, Tori. It was so great seeing you again. Much love to you. And
Thanks to you.
always in my heart, I just think you're the best. And I'm so glad to get to feature you once again in something. And when your book comes out, let me know, and we'll
Please, I will.
in any way that we can. So just love you so much.
Love you too. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. Peace.
You too. Peace.